Good news, spring football is right around the corner. The bad news, we found out today there's going to be no spring game.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to a short, abbreviated version of Locked On Illini. Just wanted to jump on real quick. Brett Bielema just concluded his press conference, essentially kicking off spring ball, and he left a couple tidbits, which I'm going to be talking on full episodes later on this week. But one notable one which a lot of us were fearing and a lot of us were already getting whispers on, was confirmed today, and that is the Illini football team will not hold a spring football game this year. Brett talked about two main factors factoring into this, one being I guess the stadium is getting some minor renovations done to it. I'm not sure what specifically. I haven't heard, at least myself, but I'll never turn down the opportunity for Memorial Stadium to get an upgrade. I love the place, but it could use a makeover every now and then. But the other thing, which was a little bit more concerning, which I'll dive a little deeper into in a future episode, is he also talked about how many players he figured would miss the spring game due to injury. And he rattled off, I think, 20 names that aren't going to be participating in spring ball. That, my friends, is somewhat of a concern, especially for the high hopes that we have for this football team this upcoming season. I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, including some of the names that won't surprise you and some of the names that probably will. But again, I want your thoughts. Are you bummed out about this? Is the spring game, is this a big deal to you? I talked about this on a previous episode a couple of weeks ago. I'm about to run that segment back just in case you missed it. I know some of you only watched the first segments. There was a conversation I had with JR. I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section if missing the spring game is a big deal for you. And welcome back to Locked On Illini. If you haven't already, make sure you've hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed and send it all to all your friends. Let's continue to make this channel grow. Next up, I wanted to talk about that's a trend. I guess that's the only way for me to describe it. That's been going around lately. Nebraska this past week announced that they're no longer going to be playing their spring game. And that's been true for Ohio State, a reason that I bring JR on, I believe USC. And again, one of the reasons I want to bring JR on was not just because he's a super good looking guy and he knows his stuff, but he wrote a very interesting article just about this very topic, which I'll have the link in the description. JR, I'll go first in this sense. I gave you the floor last time. For me, I've never gone to a spring game in my life. That includes, even when I was a student. For me, I don't quite understand the point. At least on an X's and O's scale, I think, it's just a practice game. And I think it's, for the culture, for the fans, for, everyone to get together and tailgate and, drink with the people that you're watching during the off season. I don't really get the point in the sense where Lovie Smith, and Bret, really, they're very secretive. They don't like to get any of the edges out to the future opponents. The game week one opponents, they don't want to give out any secrets. So a lot of times you see very vanilla plays. I remember last year's spring game, we saw Donovan Leary have a fantastic spring game. And a lot of people were questioning, hey, will Leary one day supplant Luke Altmaier as a starting quarterback of Illinois? And the answer was clearly no. To me, it was clearly no back then. But, the whispers started happening, and Luke Altmaier responded how? By being one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. So I guess I'm just curious on your thoughts. If Illinois, for whatever reason, decided to cancel their spring game, I'm being honest, nothing in my life would change. Maybe for the worst in the sense where that's one less thing I can cover right here on Locked On Illini, so I lose some content ideas. But when it comes to enjoying things, it's just a glorified practice to me. I don't really pay much attention to it because I don't think it means all that much. Am I alone on this island?
No, I don't think so. And I think, in my article, I literally say in it, which by the way, the article's at scarletandgame.com over the fan side. It is an Ohio State channel, and I do talk about Ohio State primarily in the article, but the sentiment can remain for any fan out there, as it does get a little personal as well. But that's kind of the crutch of it all, is that this is an experience for fans, right? For Brett Bielema not wanting to show too much, this is kind of what Matt Rule got at, where he didn't want to show his players, and then they get poached in the transfer portal. And so then you had Steve Sarkisian say, well, we don't even want to do a spring game, we just want to do OTAs like in the NFL, which honestly is probably more beneficial for them. That's the reason why the NFL does OTAs instead of a spring game. But to me, it's a special piece of college football that is different from the NFL, and it remains something that if it goes away, it's just one more way college football is becoming more NFL like, which I've not always been critical of. I do think there are aspects of college football changing to the NFL that's good for the game, but this is one in particular that is kind of personal to me, because I remember going to the spring games as a child with my dad, sometimes with my uncles, and then my mom was there a few times, and it helped kind of accelerate my fandom a little bit. And I think that's what it does for a lot of younger fans. Spring games oftentimes don't cost very much, maybe $8-10, and kids who are 5 or younger typically get in free because they're just doing whatever they can to try to fill the stadium a little bit. And for a lot of people, that's kind of maybe their first time, sometimes their only time, because tickets right now are just getting so darn expensive to all these games, especially at Ohio State. I'm not sure what the ticket prices are at Illinois, but the ticket prices are, they're what?
They're all free.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
But even in this scenario, sometimes I don't want to take my, son or daughter to a regular game, because I'll tell you a story. I went to the Ohio State-Indiana game, 2 seasons ago, and a fight broke out in the stands because 2 guys that were drunk decided they want to fight each other, an Indiana fan and an Ohio State fan. Now, I love going to the games. I'm not going to take my 3-year-old daughter to that, though. If there's guys in the stands who are fighting each other, and so a spring game is a little bit more of a more chill environment. People aren't arguing, people aren't in the stands getting upset with each other, and it's just a way to kind of accelerate that fandom. On top of that, I have friends that they room together in college, and that's like their one time a year when they get back together. They go to the Ohio State spring game, or they go to a spring game someplace else, and I just think for the fans and for the aspect of college football, it's important to keep. Are we going to lose a whole lot? No, not really, because like you said, Donovan Leary has a good game, and it's like, that didn't change anything. It doesn't really change anything there. But it is an experience for the fans, and so it does concern me. Are we going to take this experience where people go into the stadium and they kind of get to be fans and get this experience with their kids and do that? And are we just going to turn it into, a concert with dunk tanks out on the campus, which admittedly would probably be fun too, but not nearly as impactful in my opinion.
Yeah, and again, it's hard for me to say one way or the other. If Illinois continues with the spring game, fine. And I think Bret will, because Bret is very focused on, connecting with the community. This isn't Ohio State football where, there's season waiting lists for season tickets and whatnot. Right now, we are trying to build that fan base and try to sell out Memorial Stadium. We're not at that level yet. So a lot of these folks, like you said, if the tickets are free, they'll be able to come. And those people who are maybe a half hour's distance from Champaign, who've never gone to a football game in their life, well, hey, once the preview magazines come out, Illinois is going to be projected to, possibly win 8, 9, 10 games. And hey, that's a pretty good football team down the street. Let's go watch them. And so, yeah, in that sense, having like a family outing and meeting with your buddies or whatever, just having an excuse to have a couple of drinks, drink some food and watch your favorite football team, it can build a fan base. And I think Illinois right now is at the point where they do need to kind of build the fan base, at least on the football side. But I completely understand why an Ohio State can cancel theirs. I can understand why a Nebraska wants to cancel theirs, because they don't need to build a fan base. They've already got one of the most passionate fan bases in the entire sport. So for me, as long as we just all acknowledge that, I think any true football fan would say that, hey, you are giving up a tactical advantage by having the spring game. I hope at that point you would rule that, hey, we don't need the spring game. But I think right now with how vanilla Brett Bielema does play these sort of games, like I'm okay that it happens. I guess the gist of what I'm saying is I'm okay if it happens, and I'm going to be completely fine if Brett Bielema decides that it's not going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if moving forward, a lot of the top teams do, especially now with how much money is involved with each and every game and, making it to the college football playoff. I would not be surprised if a lot of the blue bloods and, even levels below just start canceling these spring games moving forward.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you to the point where it's like you don't need to show anything. And honestly, just get the fans in the stadium, play some music, have a good time. Maybe get the band to show up, and maybe throw some one-on-ones in the end zone. Maybe do some. I mean, it's been outlawed now, but the Oklahoma drill or something like that. Just do some stuff on the field that's fun, and you get to see the players that you're excited about. And at the end of the day, your kid gets a little logo on the cheek, and they eat a hot dog. It is what it is. It's just a good.
Thank you for watching that clip from one of our recent shows. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and watch the full episode. It should be right here on this channel. Better yet, if you are a fan of the Illini, make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Illini. I produce content for you daily. That's right, every single day right here on Locked On Illini. Tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.